So I want to start this morning by thinking about our lives. And if you think about like every event that you've had in your life is usually affiliated with either a party or a meal, right? Would you agree? Either a party or a meal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw out the event. You tell me the party or the meal. Ready? Okay. So for example, wedding. Okay. Our weddings usually have a reception, exactly, reception. We can also add in bridal shower, bachelorette party, bachelor party. Why is it that brides get two parties and the groom only get one? Yeah. There's no like groom shower, kind of thing. Just kind of curious. How about this one? You get pregnant. Baby shower, exactly, baby shower. All right, here's another one. You retire. Retirement party, exactly. And finally, you spend another year rotating around the planet. It's called a birthday. Usually have like a birthday party kind of thing. Now, for those events, usually what happens is you invite someone to join you. And usually the people that come, they come for you, or free food. One of the two. But typically, they come for you because they're excited to celebrate this moment with you and this moment in your life. Also, think about it this way, too. Have there ever been significant shifts that have happened in your life that was accompanied by a meal? Like, I could think about one evening when I went to a Denny's on 132nd and Hawthorne Boulevard and sat across from this beautiful girl named Heidi. I could think about that, a meal to change my life. Or a meal where I went out with another guy, and he was like, hey, have you ever thought about becoming a full-time pastor? And that's what kind of got me on the journey to where I am right now. And again, when you think about those moments where you've had those meals with others, you've had them because someone saw you. Maybe you had a meal and you were hired for a job. Someone offered you a position. Someone offered you an opportunity. But again, someone did that because they saw you. They saw you. And so there is power that is in a meal. I saw this, and I thought this was really great. This is according to the World Happiness Report, and you can read this right on the screen. It says, sharing meals proves to be an exceptionally strong indicator of subjective well-being, on par with income and unemployment. Those who share more meals with others report significantly higher levels of satisfaction and positive effect, and lower levels of negative effect. This is true across ages, genders, countries, and regions. There's something powerful about when you sit down and you have a meal with someone and you invite them to join you at the chair across from you. There's something really powerful about that. And what we're going to do today is we are going to explore that. Right now, we're in the middle of a series called Love Where You Live. And again, what we've said about loving where you live, your neighborhood, but it also could be your job. It could also be your school or your hobby. It's love where you are and love the people that are around you, the opportunities that God provides for you. And over the course of this series, here's what we have emphasized. We've emphasized that you don't have to be a biblical scholar to do this. You don't have to have reverend, minister, or pastor in front of your name to do this. You don't have to go through evangelistic training Bible school, to do this. You don't have to be seminary trained to do this. What we're talking about over the course of this series is something anyone can do. Anyone can do. And here's the thing that's really powerful about it. What we're talking about over the course of this series is exactly the same thing that Jesus did. So we're following the same model that Jesus practiced when it came to being able to reach others and see their lives changed. So over the course of this series, there's a book that I read several years ago. It's called 5 Ways to Bless Your Neighbors. And what it does, it gives you the strategy that will help you. And it's called the B.L.E.S.S strategy. And that's what we've been emphasizing over the course of this series. You can see it right on the screen as well. So the B in B.L.E.S.S stands for begin with prayer. Begin with prayer. It starts there. The L in B.L.E.S.S stands for listen with care. Now, the beautiful thing about prayer and listening, anyone can do that. right? Anyone can do that. Eat together. Now, I know anybody can do that one. Eat together. And then as you're listening, as you're praying, as you're eating together, you begin to learn more about their lives. The first S is serve and love. When you see an opportunity to serve them, you serve them. And then the final S is share your story. So begin with prayer, listen with love, or listen with care, eat together, serve in love, and share your story. Again, those are things that anyone can do. So specifically today, we're talking about, as you can see from the table, we're talking about what? Eat, right? Eat together. I should have had some like hors d'oeuvres up here so I can snack while I'm talking, kind of thing. But yeah, so there's this one point where Jesus is walking by, and there's this pattern that we consistently see in the life of Jesus. And we see this also in Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, where it says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at his tax collector's booth. Follow me and be my disciple, Jesus said to him. So Matthew got up and followed him. So here's the thing. Matthew is sitting in his tax collector's booth. Now, the tax collector's booth is basically where he embezzled people being endorsed by Roman law, becoming rich. So he's sitting in this place where he's stolen from people. And Jesus sees him and says, hey, get your act together. Is that what he says? He says what? Follow me. And there's this pattern that we see. Week 1, we talked about Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus, like Matthew, was also a tax collector, also hated by people in this town. Jesus walks through, he sees Zacchaeus hanging in a tree because everyone hated Zacchaeus. They didn't want him to see Jesus. So he climbs a tree so he can see Jesus. As Jesus walks under the tree, he says, hey, Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to come hang out at your house. And the implications are that he went to, Zacchaeus' house and probably had a meal and ate together with him. And then after that, or before that, another example that we see is Jesus runs into these 4 guys, Simon, Andrew, James, and John, and says to them, hey, come follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And so here's what we see, is invitation always precedes transformation. Invitation always precedes transformation. So there's this connection that Jesus offers. There's this connection that Jesus has. And so this is important because what this shows me, and you can see this right on the screen as well, is we must commit to reaching people where they are, not where we want them to be. Reaching people where they are, not where we want them to be. Because here's the thing, and I think sometimes we can be guilty of doing this. We can be guilty of telling people, you need to get your act together to come to church. You need to get your act together so you can follow God. You need to get... But here's the reality. If we had to get our act together, none of us would be here. Right? As a matter of fact, let's be real. Some of us still need to get our act together. We still have things that we need to work on. Still have things that we need to improve. Still have places that we need to grow in. And so all Jesus is asking us to do is extend the same invitation to someone else that he extended to us. And it's, come join me at my table. Come join me at my table. And when we begin to understand that, that is something that is extremely powerful. So here's the big idea for the message today. And you can see it right on the screen as well. If a shared meal was genuinely the only thing standing between your neighbor and eternity, would you do it? Would you do it? Between your coworker and eternity, between your friend and eternity, would you do it? Would you invite them to join you? So Matthew is moved by this invitation with Jesus, and he is so moved that he throws a party that night and says, Jesus, you are going to be my guest of honor. You're going to be my guest of honor. Now, I also want to talk about another guest of honor that has responded to God's calling to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take a risk and step in and begin to allow God to use my life. So Glenn is going to come and talk about what happens at Matthew's table. Glenn?
Thank you, Ken, for the very nice handoff. I hope I don't disappoint. I'm back. You guys miss me? Be careful. Be careful. It's very interesting. This eat perspective in the bless strategy. It's an easy one for me. It's an easy one for all of us, I think, because what better icebreaker can we have other than eating? We need to eat. We want to eat. Some of us really like to eat. So go with what you're good at. It's interesting, the concept of simple with this eat strategy. With the bless strategy and the eat aspect. It's something when Ken and I were talking about it, I was like, oh, I can talk about that. That's easy. That's something that's so progressive in our relational build. Christ. We're talking about the bless strategy, beginning with prayer, listening, talking, but doing more listening. But in natural progression, when I met my wife and we began dating, we talked. There were meals involved. It's a natural progression. It's an easy icebreaker for us. So who's at this table? Who's at this metaphorical table? And it's anyone. I think in reviewing this text and going over this, that's one of the things Ken and I have really come up with and noticed is that it's anyone. I can do it. You can do it. Anybody outside these walls, anybody watching. And who are you doing it for? Anyone. Anyone's a candidate. Because that's what stewardship is. That's what God wants us to do. A simple and easy way to bring the kingdom is by inviting somebody to eat, to drink. It can be informal. It doesn't have to be as nice as this table Ken prepared for us. And it would have been cool. We should have had some of the Main Street Disneyland, some of the baked goods piping into the audience. It would have been kind of cool. But it is. It's such a simple and easy thing to do. And what we do is we make it difficult. It doesn't need to be. So I'm going to hit you with some stats. I know research and stats, but this is important. An informal invitation, statistics show that a yes to an informal invitation, let's go have a drink, let's go have some coffee, let's go to a simple meal, invite somebody to church. That's a simple, casual invitation. Yes rate, 70%. 70%. Now, obviously, that's friends, acquaintances, somebody who you may know. Obviously, exponentially it decreases from there, but that's understandable. But we're not asking for the moon and the stars. God's not asking for the moon and the stars. It's a really simple way. So, why don't we do it more often? I don't know. We're busy, we're whatever. So, Ken did verse 9, chapter 9 in Matthew. Let's take a look at verse 10 in Matthew, continuing on with the Matthew invitation to Christ and his followers. And it says, later Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. Okay. So, anyone in his sphere. It doesn't talk about Christ hemmed and hawed. It didn't talk about who can I bring. He just came. He did it. So who's at this table? Who's at this event? Who's at this simple, casual experience? Two groups: the inviter and the invited. That's really it. So football season's coming up. We all love football. We're going to go with the football metaphor here. Quarterback, receiver. Really simple. Quarterback is the inviter. I am putting out a pass, the ball to you to either catch or drop. The receiver has the prerogative, catch it or drop it. It's really simple. So I think each party has a responsibility in that. And it speaks to all of us because we've all been there. We've all been the asker and the person that's asked. So what are the hang-ups? Why is it sometimes difficult? Let's talk about the people on each end of this perspective. As the receiver, as the person being asked, what goes through your head? Obviously, if it's a good friend, it's somebody I've known, a good acquaintance, they may know you better than you know yourself. So that's typically A yes means yes, and a no means no, whatever the case may be. More casual acquaintance, definitely a stranger. What are their issues? What's the why behind their yes or their no? And I think first and foremost, we love acknowledgement. I love to be recognized. I may not know you that well, I may know you very well, but you invited me? I feel acknowledged, I feel accepted, I feel like I'm a part of something. I can be a part of your circle, your group. So we like that. Human nature says, that's a good thing. Thank you. That's cool. I feel recognized. But honestly, another part of us, we're worried about a pitch. We're worried about being put in an awkward, uncomfortable situation. I've got enough in my life. I've got enough going on. I don't need more. I don't need another thing. It's understandable to some degree. And I mean, I think we all get it because we've all been there. We're all going to be in this position. We've all been in this position. We may have a casual invite lingering that we're not even talking about, or we're thinking about it, but we haven't even responded to yet. So you have a responsibility to do a yes or a no to that person, and I think that's how it's supposed to work, and that's okay. Interesting stat: of that 70% I said to say yes, of that 70%, 77% wanted to say no. Right? Well, then why didn't you? Societal views, societal things that we've gotten into our head as the correct perceptions of what people think of us and how we are and how we operate. We disqualify ourselves. It's not worth it. I've got too much. I'm doing too much. They're too cool for me. Or they're not cool enough. Whatever. We make it difficult. Casual, simple invitation. Let's talk about the quarterback side, the person who's inviting. You know, is there a pitch? Is there an agenda? If for true connection, there shouldn't be. There doesn't need to be. We don't have to operate in that vein. We shouldn't. What would you like? How would you like to be asked? What's a casual invitation look like to you? What's it feel like, the dynamics of that? Because again, we're on both sides. The easiest way to determine the best way to do something for somebody else is be them in your ask. Be them in your receiving of said invitation. But there again, we disqualify ourselves. So let's jump to our next verse, Matthew 9:11, and kind of see one of the pitfalls of things that we ask in our responses. But when the Pharisees saw Christ and his followers dining with Matthew, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with such scum?" Really? Interesting thing is, 2,000 years ago, we still do that. Still do that. I don't know why. It's almost like it's ingrained, but it shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be, because again, simple, casual invitation. I want you at my metaphorical table for connection. Human nature and the need for connection. Not necessarily touch, but connection. We need it. We need it. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. That's how a society is supposed to work. But we get hung up on things like the biblical scholars, the upper echelon of perceived truth, is making judgments like that. We do it today, guys. We don't need to, we shouldn't, but we do. So don't disqualify yourself. Don't disqualify the person you're going to ask or the person being the person asking. Put it out there, and I get it. You're not going to be running down and asking anybody and everybody, but there's a need for it. There's a want. And I think ultimately what we're trying to do, the B.L.E.S.S strategy is that. It's a strategy to get connected. It's a strategy to give us all tools to get connected. And what's the easiest way to do that than eating together? I can't think of one. It's something we all do. It's something we all want to do. So getting back to our needs and the need for connection and what it does. Christians, people who profess to be followers of Christ, doing this and stepping out, it's a faith statement. It's a faith statement. It's an easy way for you to say, God, I'm going to take my hands off the wheel, and I want you to drive. Because we don't let God work as much as we should. Even the person being invited has that option. Hey, I might be feeling a little bit lonely. I haven't talked to this person in a while. Sure, what the heck? Maybe it's a stranger. Maybe it's somebody you just met. It's an acquaintance. This will be fun. This will be new. This will be something that I can give a shot to get some connection. And if you're a person of faith, let God work within it. Let God work. We are such control freaks. We are so triggered to keep both hands on the wheel as much as possible. I'm up here doing this. I'm trying to let God work. You know, we all have jobs and careers and things and raising kids, and we're all practicing at it. The more we let God work, better's probably going to come from it. And it's interesting because you may get a no. You may feel bad saying no to somebody. But if God's at work and you're allowing him to work, you keep grinding, you keep trying, you let God deal with the no, because the yeses will come. You know, so I'm not trying to make it formal or like, it's just a simple thing. It's a simple thing. We need to have a mindset where we go out and anyone is a candidate to be in our sphere, in inner sphere, outer sphere, to gain connection. Because again, I think I said this last time when I spoke, society and us being the top of society, you put religion aside, Christianity, for it to work, what I'm describing, what we're talking about, the connection, it's the only way it's going to survive. It's the only way society is going to survive. So with that, I'm going to wrap up, and Ken's going to come back up, and he's going to talk some more about some other strategies, and not strategies, but more components of each strategy. Thank you.
Again, I'm so excited to see Glenn taking the step of faith and allowing God to use him. I'm also excited because I get to shut up and listen, you know, as well. And some of you are like, you need to do that more often. So, but I'm blessed by that. So as we think about this idea of being able to eat with others, it is amazing what it does. It is amazing how it does break down walls. And also what it does is it forces us to get to a point where, like I said before, that we have to try to begin to see people the way that Jesus sees them. Again, what I love about Matthew is Matthew knows at this point, like, you see me. Like for this invitation, you see me. Zacchaeus was like, you see me. And every case where Jesus has these encounters, it is this same aspect. I see you. I see who you are. I see the work that I have done and that I am doing in your life. It's powerful. It really is. And I pray that over the course of this series, and that's why we've been talking about, for example, begin with prayer. Because what prayer does is prayer opens the door of compassion. And prayer does begin to allow us to be able to change the way that we see people. And then also, there's something powerful too. When you sit down and you listen to someone and you begin to hear their story about their life, although you may know what their struggle is, because you know the background now behind the struggle, you also see them differently. And sometimes the most powerful tool to cause that to happen is when you sit down and have a meal with someone. I don't know why. Food creates safety. It really does. Even spinach, you know, spinach gets caught up there. We still feel safe. We might do that a lot, but there's a safety that is created because of that. And so Jesus wants us to be willing to step into those opportunities to be able to connect with others and to be able to see the work that he can do through us. Now, you may be thinking, well, Ken, I would love to invite people to my table, but the reality is that I don't. Either I don't know people who are not Christians, or I just don't have other people to invite. And what I would encourage us to do then is to begin. That's why the blessed strategy is there, so that we can use it to be able to look at, man, how can I start connecting with people? Start looking for clubs. Start looking for clubs that you could join where you can hang out with people. Start maybe looking for a class, a community class that you could join. Start looking for ways that maybe you can volunteer. Again, a lot of us work. Maybe look for people at work that you can connect with. Uh, just begin to ask God, God, help me to be aware of the people that are around me. And also, Father, help me to see people as you see them. That's the part that's really powerful. And so what happens is Jesus hears what's happening in this conversation. Oh, but before I jump to that, here's the thing that I wanted to share with this, because there's something that Glenn shares I wanted to emphasize as well. And you can see this right on the screen. Eating together doesn't reflect closeness, it also creates it. It doesn't just reflect closeness, it also creates it. It creates closeness. It creates the opportunity for us to be able to hang out with people and get to know them. There was a survey that was done. There was an article written called America's Unhappier Than Ever Before. Solo dining may be a sign. And it said that solo dining has become so common that some view it as a symptom of a wider cultural disconnect. The reality is, we eat by ourselves all the time. And there was another survey that was done in the United Kingdom, and they asked, how important is it for you to eat together? And 76% of the people said it is vitally important. But then they also found out that out of the 21 meals we eat during the week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, out of the 21 meals we eat, during the week, on average, we eat 10 of them alone. On average. Some people more than 10, some people less than 10, but on average. So if the social connect is so important, then what we can do is we can also begin to recognize that this is a way to begin to draw others to begin to connect. And connection really is a need in our society right now. But Jesus hears what's going on in this conversation. He hears the guys. And this is kind of crazy. How could you eat with such scum? Just think about the audacity it takes to be able to make such a statement. Now, I do think that there's certain language or vernacular that we know is not good. We know it's not good to, hey, that guy is real scum. Like, we don't usually say that unless he really is real scum. That's the only time that we usually use it. But the reality is that we wrestle with this disconnect in our relationship. So Jesus hears this conversation that's happening. And then Jesus comes over and he says this in Matthew chapter 9, verse 12. It says, when Jesus heard this, he said, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. Healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. Now here's the thing that's really interesting about this conversation as well. The reality is, when people are hurting, they want to hang out with hurting people as well. When I've been through a situation where I have wrestled and gone through my own wrestles and struggles and illnesses, then I get to a point where I want to help others the way that I've been helped. I want to comfort others the way that I've been comforted. And so sometimes part of opening up the table is to be able to be kind of like an influence, hopefully, that will allow people to be able to see that breakthrough can happen in their lives. But it's vital as I look over, to begin to recognize that it's an opportunity for me to do so. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting, though, is the Pharisees probably misread the room. Because Jesus said, healthy people don't need a doctor. Who does? Sick people do. And you know what they probably thought? I'm healthy. I'm good and healthy. Right? That's probably what they thought. And here's the thing that I found out as well. Have you noticed that people who, let me ask this question. Let me ask it this way, actually. Have you ever dealt with people who need medical attention but refuse to take it? Refuse to take it? I'm not going to no doctor. I feel fine. I feel fine. And I don't need no medication. I'm good. I know of a guy who threw his blood pressure medication out the window. He was like, I prayed and I plead the blood of Jesus over me, and threw his blood pressure medication out the window. And let's just say, by the time he went to the doctor, he needed a higher dosage, you know. But it's interesting. And I think when we began to look at this, the Pharisees were the ones who really needed a doctor, really needed it. But as a result of their mindset, they ignored Jesus, they ignored the work that he could do. And here's the thing that's really interesting when you think about it this way. They thought that they were healthy. They thought the tax collectors and sinners were the sick ones. But who was it that put Jesus on the cross? Was it the tax collectors and sinners? No. It was the people who thought they were healthy. It was the ones who thought they had it together. It was the ones that thought they had it all figured out. And so I want to say this because I think this is really important for us to understand as well, that when we are looking at others, we have to make a commitment that we cannot have the us versus them mentality. And really, that's what the Pharisees had. It's us. And if you're one of us, then you're one of us. And if you're not one of us, you're scum. You're scum. And here's the thing. As Christians, we really wouldn't say that, right? You have to be one of us. But sometimes we treat those that are not in the Christian realm, we treat them like them. And that hinders us from being able to connect. And as a matter of fact, sometimes what we do is we create this what I would call holy bubble. We create this holy bubble. So I listen to Christian music, I watch Christian radio, I wear Christian t-shirts, I talk to Christian people, I go to Christian dance clubs, you know. And let me make this really clear. I understand that we do need to be wise about what we expose ourselves to. I understand that. But I think sometimes what we've been guilty of is that we create this wall, and this wall hinders us from being able to connect with others. And without realizing it, we have this mentality that you can sit in this chair because you deserve to sit in this chair. And you deserve to sit in this chair when you begin to change, when you begin to act the way I think you should act. That's when I think you deserve to sit in that chair. But the reality is, for Jesus, who could sit in that chair? Anyone could sit in that chair. Anyone. Why? Because here's the thing. If I'm trying to see Gabe, right? If I'm trying to look at Gabe, what's the problem here? Can I see him? Why not? I'm blinded. Last week we talked about assumptions and how dangerous assumptions are. This is what assumptions become to us. And so all I see, reality is I see my assumptions, and all I see are Gabe's problems. Not that you have a lot, you know. But and that's the problem. All we see are people's problems. And that becomes a hindrance to us being able to offer the invitation to sit down and have a seat. But when we look at Jesus, he saw the person. He saw the person and invited the person to the table. Now we're in a place where we can hang out and we can chit-chat and we can dialogue. And now we're in a place where I win emotional collateral and relational collateral. And now we're also in the place, and here's the beauty of a meal. The beauty of a meal is when I connect with someone, guess what's going to happen? Another meal, right? So the reality also is, because I think for some of us, when we see the idea of reaching people for Jesus, we feel like we have to have that magical conversation. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, I want to know Jesus. And many of us don't feel qualified to do that. And can I be honest with you? I don't feel qualified to do that. Not in one conversation. Because the reality is, it's not up to me. It's not up to me. But if I can begin to hang out, have dialogue, and we can chit chat and we can talk, and the more that we hang out, the more that we chit chat, the more that we talk, the more that we eat together, the more someone has the opportunity to see the kindness of Jesus in me. And that's what begins to draw them to him. But it starts with us being able to recognize, and here's the truth. We all know, we all have issues to work on. We all know that. And the beauty is when God begins to work in our lives and work on those issues. And those issues begin to grow and change. And here is the beauty that I have noticed, and you can see this right on the screen as well, and that is people who know they are sick or have recovered from illness want to help others when they are sick. They want to help others who are sick. In my life, I want to help others change. I want to help others grow. And so I want to encourage us to begin to think about the way that we look at people, and that we begin to say, Jesus, and we begin to say, Jesus, help me to see what it is that you see. And I don't see your problems. I see you. And that's what he did with Matthew. That's what he did with Zacchaeus as well. Matthew chapter 9, verse 13. It goes on to say, then he added, now go and learn the meaning of this scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. For I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. You see the difference? Who think they are righteous, Pharisees, but know they are sinners, know they are broken. I have come to call them. And so I was thinking about this idea of showing mercy and not sacrifice. Because I started to dig into that. I started, well, what does Jesus mean by that? And then it hit me. There's this one point where Jesus is out, and he's talking with people. And this leper comes up to Jesus. And this leper says to Jesus, will you heal me? And Jesus not only heals the leper, Scripture says he touched the leper. Now here's the thing. When Jesus touched the leper, he became ceremonially unclean. And because he was ceremonially unclean, he was actually unable to offer the sacrifice because he could not go into the temple until he was declared clean. He was ceremonially unclean. When Jesus is walking along, and there's this woman who's had a menstruation issue for 12 years straight. And it wasn't like 12 years, like she was bleeding straight for 12 years. She was considered unclean. And anyone she touched was considered unclean. So when she pushes through the crowd and she touches the hem of Jesus, the scripture says that Jesus felt power go out from him. But also, the moment she touched Jesus, he became unclean, ceremonially. He became unclean. But what did he offer to her? Mercy. So he was unable to go into the temple because he's ceremonially unclean to offer sacrifices. So to the leper, he showed mercy. To this woman, he showed mercy. And to the Pharisees, when Jesus is sitting at this meal and he's hanging out and he's talking with tax collectors and sinners, in their eyes, because of who Jesus is with, in their eyes, he is ceremonially unclean. He's because of who he's with. So the idea is they're tainting you. That's the mindset. I don't want to be around these people because these people taint me. They taint me. But again, Jesus was willing to be ceremonially unclean to spend time. Matter of fact, maybe we can even add this argument. Jesus left the perfection of heaven to come and be amongst us. Does that make him ceremonial unclean? Possibly. Possibly. But he said this, I desire what? Mercy, not sacrifice. And this is the thing that's really important. Although he was ceremonially unclean, he himself was still pure. He was still pure. He was still an unblemished sacrifice for us. And so it's important for us to understand this. It is not our religious duties that make us pure. Yes, read your Bible. Yes, pray. Yes, spend time in Scripture. Yes, do that. Connect with God. Grow in Him. But the reality is, it is our connection with Jesus that makes us pure. It is being with Him that makes us pure. And as we have that connection with Him, then what He desires for us to do is now for us to be willing to even make ourselves ceremonially unclean, to be able to show mercy to those who are far from Him. So I think it's important for us to understand that. And I think that's what He was trying to get the Pharisees to understand as well. So I just want to encourage us that maybe what it's time for us to do is take off the blinders of our religiosity and see people through the eyes of mercy, compassion, and grace. And also, as a result of that, to again, invite others to sit down and have a meal with us. And also to begin to understand this, and this is something that I say to you guys all the time. I'm not a pastor because I have it figured out. I don't. And here's the reality. I'm on this journey too. I am on this journey just as much as you guys are on this journey as well. And so when we have that mentality, then you know what it does? It puts us to a place where we begin to realize, you know what? Hey, I want to fill that seat so that I can invite someone else to be on this journey with me as well. And it's important to realize too, because this whole thing that we're talking about, and I'm going to wrap up soon, this whole thing that we're talking about, this is not a pitch strategy on how to get people into church. It's not. And this is not a strategy on how to be more effectively, what do I want to say? This is not a strategy on how to be more effective at pitching Jesus. It's not about that. This is about how do we genuinely love people. And then if I invite someone to church with me, I'm not pitching church with them. I'm just saying, hey, this is what I've done and it's changed my life. I just want you to enjoy me, to join me in it. I've made a commitment to Jesus and it's changed my life. And this is how it's changed my life. And I just want to invite you to join me in it as well. So it's important for us to realize that this is not about a pitch. It's about connection and closeness and just being able to be someone who practically loves others the way that Jesus did. So let's open up our table and let's begin to invite others. Now, typically at the end of the message, this is where I would say that, we made a commitment to follow the core value of the great commandment, which is love God, love others, love ourselves. And usually we say love, love, love. And we talk about that at the end of every message. We're going to do something different today. And here's what I want to end this message with today. I want to end the message with an encouragement, with a challenge. And so go ahead and put that on the screen, Xavier. I want to challenge us to open up our tables. Just open up your table. First of all, pray for one person. Who is one person? Jesus, who's one person I can invite for coffee, to lunch? Who's one person I can begin to reach out to? Now, let me tell you this too. It doesn't have to be this week. But I will say the sooner that you can do it, the better, because you can get this momentum going. But begin to pray and just invite someone. Then second, pick a meal and extend an invitation. Pick a meal. And hey, you want to go out for coffee? I would love to be able to get to know you. And most people would say, yes, unless They don't want to get to know you. And if that being the case, then just move on to the next person, kind of thing. But most people will say yes to hanging out, getting a cup of coffee, or getting a meal together. And especially when you say, I just want to get to know you. Because the reality is, most people want to be known and be seen. And then, 3, use the 4 H's at the table. Because sometimes you sit down and you're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. So remember the 4 H's. The first H is history. Where are you from? Learn their background. The second H is heart. What are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? The third H is habit. What do you enjoy doing? What do you like to do for fun? And then the fourth H may take time to get to, but what are your hurts? What are your struggles? What do you wrestle with? So this could be a great guide for us in being able to just learn how to build conversations. And like I said, it can also be a great guide to learn how to listen. And again, when we sit down with someone to hang out and eat, what it does is it breaks down walls. And it allows for genuine connection to be able to happen. Jesus, I thank you. I think